Nick Lacy is the AVP of Marketing and Analysis at the Christian Community Credit Union, where he oversees market research, analysis, and strategy. His background includes over 15 years of pastoral and executive ministry experience. He's a former vice president of corporate strategy for a technology company and a strategic and creative communications consultant. He has also been featured as an expert on the topic of strategic execution in various publications, and he holds a master's degree in ministry management. Nick is very interesting. Our conversation is very interesting, and it's something we should all consider. Christian Community Credit Union. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and thanks for listening to Unscripted.
Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. This is Caitlin. Each episode, my Uncle Aaron interviews guests that are living their lives unscripted. The song you are hearing is the music from our dear friends Tori and Shauna. You can find their music wherever you stream your favorite songs. For now, from his studio, here's my Uncle Aaron.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios here in Columbus, Ohio. Special guest today. I'm really looking forward to this at a time when I think a lot of people are very nervous about things like money. I'm really excited to talk to you. Nick, can you introduce yourself and we'll go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, Aaron, and hello to all your listeners. My name is Nick Lacy, and I have the pleasure of being AVP of Marketing at Christian Community Credit Union. So we're America's #1 biblical banking institution. And so to have a conversation around finances and biblical stewardship and what's happening in the market, happy to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's start with your story first, and then we'll really get into to what we want to talk about today. But just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, absolutely. So I was actually in formal ministry as a pastor for over 15 years and had the pleasure of being part of an executive staff at a fairly large church in Southern California with wonderful people and wonderful colleagues there. And then the last year I was there, just really started to feel led to go into the business marketplace and really make the marketplace a place of ministry for me. And that's obviously a whole other topic. We could have a lot of fun on another podcast, I'm sure. But so stepped out of the formal ministry setting, and I would just say went into the informal ministry setting and did business development and also ran my own business for a while, was a vice president of corporate strategy, and now here at Christian Community Credit Union. And I got to say, Aaron, it's amazing how ministry just naturally occurs in organic environments. If we just do our job as disciples and as stewards, things will naturally happen. And for anybody out there who feels that you need the title of pastor to be a pastor, it's not true. It's absolutely not true. And I'm a living testament of that. So I just carry the perspective of, hey, wherever I am, whatever executive environment might be, just be a disciple, and just allow the Spirit of God to move through you freely and things will naturally happen. And so I have the pleasure of doing that now here at the Christian Community Credit Union.
It's really cool because I think we have a very similar story, it sounds like, and I had a cup of coffee in ministry myself. And when I left, ministry, I've had that belief, and I've said it on other podcasts as well. I believe we're in ministry wherever we are. You don't have to actually be employed by a church. And those that are employed by the church, awesome. But at the same time, I think the world needs us to be in ministry in our jobs every day. So that's awesome that you felt that calling. Tell us about Christian Community and really what led you there, and maybe some of the backstory about the organization itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Christian Community Credit Union has been around for about 66 years, and we are the largest biblical banking institution in the United States. And a lot of people don't even know that a biblical banking institution exists, right? And so we are just doing, a very bold effort to let people know that we're here. There is a rumbling out there in the marketplace right now where people are just feeling attention, if you will, with some of the secularized banks and multiple industries, actually, for that matter. And they're just trying to find ways, is there opportunity for me to align more with my Christian values anywhere? And sometimes it feels like there's nothing out there, right? Where it's like, does anything align with my values anymore? Is anything sacred anymore? All this kind of stuff, right? And so for me, it's an honor to be a part of an organization that provides a solution to that pain. that brings that sense of purpose. We invest heavily back into Christian ministries and charities. And so as part of the credit union, for every member that we have, when they entrust us with their various investments as a bank, we reinvest that back into the kingdom. And so it's a constant cycle, right? You invest in the kingdom and we invest back into Christian ministries and charities. And then you can also have that satisfaction that your dollars aren't going to things that don't support biblical values or biblical causes, right? And so,
Right.
so it's an honor for me to be part of an organization that boldly stands for that is unapologetically Christian, that is driven by biblical values and Scripture, and that's just it's a rare story these days to be able to boldly say that, right? Yeah. And especially in a financial institution. And so we provide loans to churches, to ministries, church plants, and then also for the consumer side, checking, savings, high yield, all kinds of solutions, just like any other bank would. It's just we're biblically based. So,
yeah, it's so interesting. It seems like you all have, instead of putting all the money into bowl games and again, no, not naming any particular bank, but a bowl game or putting the title on this arena or those type of things that are obviously where a lot of those banks put a lot of their money for marketing and all those purposes. You all are putting it back into the kingdom. Is that fair to say?
That's right. Yeah. Our mark, you won't see it. You won't see it'd be awesome. Don't get me wrong, but you probably won't see a Christian Community Credit Union college football, bowl game, right? Our mark is made in kingdom impact. And so a lot of those things aren't measurable in the same ways, right? They take time. It's more about the spirit than it is about the spreadsheets many times, but we are proud to invest back into the kingdom in that way. And so, I think, Aaron, whether it be a church plant or whether it be an organization that is, helping, to free those who are part of the sex trafficking, stuff like that. We support organizations that are part of that effort as well. And we've recently had the real pleasure of working with some trusted organizations that are helping in Israel and Gaza and that whole surrounding area. So we're actively looking, right? We're actively looking, but we can only do that because of our members, that invest with our institution, that bank with our institution, and we take a small portion of that and give back into the kingdom. And the more members that we have, it allows us to provide more affordable loan rates for churches, whether it be for their church plant or for, a new property or maintenance, whatever it might be. And so again, like I said, it's kind of it's just feeding the kingdom. You start to get into a cycle, right? But what's fascinating too, Aaron, what's so great is that you're part of a community now, right? So we're Christian Community Credit Union. The credit union model is member-based. And so in order to be a member, you have to, essentially be a Christian, right? And so you're actually joining with other Christians, thousands of other Christians across the country and saying, you know what, we're going to bank with our values and we want our money to go back into kingdom causes. And that's the number one reason why people, join us, is because they have that sense of peace that they can finally align with their Christian values.
This question is going to make sense in my head, but hopefully I can communicate it right. It seems like you're also modeling what we should be doing in our own lives as well. Does that make sense? So when we're called, with the tithe and with our finances to honor God in those ways, it sounds like you as a business are modeling what we as individuals should be doing as well, being wise with our finances, but also investing back into kingdom building opportunities. Hopefully that came out right. It was right in my head.
It came out perfect. So I think you're spot on, and thank you for noticing that. I think the topic there, really, if we zoom out a little bit, it's about stewardship, right? It's about stewardship. And stewardship, has it been forgotten? Has the value of true biblical stewardship been forgotten? We don't want it to be forgotten. Obviously, it's a scriptural mandate, and basically, stewardship not only involves finances, but it involves managing every gift, every resource that we've been entrusted with, right, in a way that's God honoring. And we want to revive that conversation. We want to revive that value. And what we have found, Aaron, we've actually done some research on this. What we've found is that there seems to be a fairly confident head knowledge of stewardship, but there is still an uncertainty on how I actually live it out on a daily basis, So I can define stewardship. I could sit here and I can say, oh, stewardship is, managing God's resources in a God-honoring way, whatever it might be, right? But when it comes to how does that look, right? How do you actually live that out at an experiential level? What we found in our research is that it goes back to the basics. Well, wait, what is stewardship exactly then? And so you kind of have this tension of, I know it in my head, I just don't know what it means to live it out. And so hopefully, Aaron, to your point, hopefully our organization's helping to not only set that example, but to revive that, that discipline, if you will, right? And revive that mindset and revive that perspective that when we live as biblical stewards, blessing comes. Not in terms of, hey, more money's coming your way. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying the blessing of the presence and the peace of God comes. And that's the blessing, right? So thank you, Aaron, for acknowledging that. And we strive to do that every day.
Well, it's a principle that I do as well, and our family tries to, So that kind of leads me to the next question. You mentioned the word tension, and I know it was in another way, but the world is crazy right now. I mean, people are feeling it. My wife and I were just having the conversation last night. I mean, from inflation being up to wages being down, jobs and all, there's a lot of different ways we can go with that conversation. However, there's a lot of talk and conversation around banks right now, centralizing of banks, digital currency, just some buzzwords that I'm sure you feel. So in terms of tension, are you feeling tension from the world and its ever-changing and evolving quickly landscape in what you all do?
Yeah. So I think first of all, tension can be a good thing, right? And scripturally speaking, we always should have tension with the world, right? Because we should see what's unfolding in the world and feel a sense of, this isn't what Scripture asks of me. This is what Scripture, commands of me. This isn't, or maybe this is what Scripture forecasted. Who knows, right? I think we're always going to have that sense of tension, right? It's how we navigate it. But to your point, Aaron, there's so many questions right now around currency. A lot of that, by the way, is coming from Revelation in times, some of those things that are very healthy discussions to have, And I had a mentor, Aaron, who is still a dear friend and mentor of mine, and he said, Nick, always pay attention to the tension, right? Pay attention to the tension, because when you do that, it allows you to, with the guidance of Scripture, find peace and resolve ultimately. The way that the Christian is not supposed to operate is to turn tension into anxiety, right? Or turn tension into extreme fear. That's not what we're called to do. In the midst of our tension, God meets us and he provides that peace and he provides that truth and that wisdom. And so, there's a lot of tension there, whether it's digital currency or whether it's just with the conduct of banking institutions, whether it's, there's an increased conversation right now about the targeting of Christians, whether it be big tech, or whether it be in banking. It's a real thing, Aaron. There is targeting taking place, and so Christians need to be very, very discerning. But what they should not do is freak out right now. What they should not do is allow it to turn into anxiety. They just need to find the wisdom that Scripture provides, make Scripture your ultimate authority, period. Get off social media, get off Main Street, whatever you have to do, and get back to the Word and allow it to guide you, and you will navigate this just fine.
So I shouldn't pull all my money out of the bank, put it in a jar or a mattress.
Right. No. You're not going to get that advice from me, Aaron. Sorry. I want to say this. When it comes to money, when it comes to money, look, people are going to manage that in their own way, right? There are some listeners that probably have absolutely probably pulled their money and put it under a mattress because they felt I got to do this, So what I'm not is a financial advisor. I'll tell you that. Okay?
Right.
But
Just for clarity,
what I will do is, at least from a biblical perspective of stewardship, at least look at what Scripture says about money, navigate within that framework, and then make the decisions that you feel most appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. I want to move to the best way I know how to do this is to put what we do with our bank. No names, please. What we do with our bank. And I'll start by saying that I think our bank is our bank because it was my parents' bank. Do you find that a lot?
Absolutely. It's one of the number one reasons why people are in the bank they're in. It was just handed to them. It was one of those things where it's passed down. It's familiar, right? And so people have that sense of automatic trust, so they just sign up. Absolutely.
Right. Unless your mortgage is with whoever the lender was for your mortgage or your car, that's a little bit different. But in terms of your day-to-day, where that check goes at the end of every week or 2 weeks, that's been the same for us because it was my parents. We've actually set up accounts for our kids when they turn 16 so they could learn to manage money. They're all with the same bank, those kind of things. But we also have investments with them where when I left corporate America, we rolled over to an IRA from a 401k. That sits at the same bank. Do you all do all those same things?
Yeah. So our expertise is largely in checking, savings, loans as well. The retirement planning stuff like that, we are working on actually revamping some of those programs right now. Certainly, there's a lot of different options out there. I think for us, the biggest point that we want to make is that, look, when it comes to your everyday financial management, where most of your money is, or when it comes to like a CD or an investment of some sort, right? We want to ensure that that that's being invested back into the kingdom. And it's not uncommon for people to diversify where they bank. That's completely normal for various, they found a rate here, a rate there, whatever it is. But I think we're at a crossroads though, Aaron, where I think it's appropriate as a steward for Christians to ask the question, does my bank support and align with my Christian values? Just ask the question. That's all we're saying. Sure. Just ask the question. And I'm not inferring that there'll be a negative answer out of that. I'm not inferring that you're going to find something, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, look, we're in a culture where you kind of have to ask these questions now, unfortunately. This question probably didn't need to be asked as strongly 10 years ago. Now it does. And so we're just trying to get a message out there of, look, if you're a believer today, stewardship is at every level of whatever resources you have. And just take the time to ask the question, does my bank support and align with my Christian values? If it does, wonderful. If there's no tension, right? If there's no tension, keep going, right? We're not, not inferring anything. But if there is a sense of, no, like I don't feel that it does, or I really want more of that in my life, more of that missional alignment on every area of my life, then there's an alternative. And that's what we're out there saying is that, Christian Community Credit Union is a wonderful alternative to consider if you feel it might be a right fit for you. So ask that question as a steward. And what you can do is a simple web search of like your bank name and just find anything of whether it's misconduct, whether it's investments, whether it's different things they've sponsored, whatever it might be. People have different values that they're really going to identify with more, and just do a web search and see what comes up. And for some, you might be a little bit surprised, right? There might be some surprising things there. For others, there's nothing out there. Then just pray over it and just discern, do I want something that aligns with my Christian values more? And if so, Christian Community Credit Union is here to help.
Love it. Now, from a nuts and bolts perspective, I assume you have the debit card and the ATM card and the credit card. Do you have branches across the United States? Just trying to cover all the areas that were in questions that I'm sure other people will have as they're listening. I know there's probably one on every corner of some of these banks, or one, what I'm saying. So if they're not familiar, what's that look like? What's that landscape look like?
Yeah, great question. One of those common questions that we get. So we are largely a digital banking institution. We do have a branch in Southern California in the city of San Dimas in particular, okay? About 20 minutes or so east of Pasadena, to give some reference. But as a digital banking institution, we also are part of what's called the co-op network for credit unions. And so basically, our members can access thousands of ATMs and branches across the U.S. that will provide the same services should they go into that branch or that ATM. It's part of the co-op network is what it's called. And on our website, myccu.com, you can actually find the locations. And so if you're not in Southern California, that's okay. We have a lot of members that aren't, a lot. So it's nationwide. And they just find their closest ATM or their closest branch that can go in and get various services, provided for them. And that seems to be, enough to suffice, for what their needs are. But it's largely a digital banking institution. And so obviously emphasis on web and mobile and those kinds of things. So it's across the United States. You have access to all those different items. You mentioned credit card, Aaron. One of our number one products actually that people love is our cash rewards card. And they actually get 1.5% cash back. But again, a missional alignment, also with every swipe, it's going to actually feed back into Christian ministries and charities as well. And so again, you have that sense of missional alignment with every swipe that you do, but you're also getting cash back as well. So that is definitely one of our top products.
When it comes to the missions and things that you choose, can people send in, foundations or missional opportunities that they're aware of to you, or do you all choose those?
Yeah, of course. So any member can, the beauty about being member based is that you have a voice, and so it's
Right.
not like
Love it.
a big bank where you're just getting an annual, some stock report that no one knows how to read. You actually have a voice.
Right.
So we
Exactly.
take all those emails very seriously of all of our members. So most certainly, if there are ministries that are out there that are very much missionally in line with what we're doing, we of course encourage members to express that. Obviously, we can't serve every single ministry across the globe, right? But
Right.
but we do have kind of a core group that we work with, but that's expanding even as we speak, and so that's where we invest back into. But it's not just those sponsor ministries. We also look at some of our ministry partners, and if there's like a church plant that needs a lot of help or something like that, we may give them a donation, a gift, right? And so we're always keeping a pulse on our members and the member organizations, I should say, with the churches in particular, and just saying, hey, do you need help? And we can't obviously do everything for everybody, but the spirit of generosity is there. The value of generosity is there. And within the means that we have, we want to make sure we exercise that. One of our longstanding partnerships is with an organization called Mission Aviation Fellowship. And they're an organization that basically flies, around different parts of the country and delivers supplies and those kinds of things to those who are in need. And it's a tremendous outreach opportunity. And we've been with them for a long time. And they actually have a credit card that's branded to them, a Mission Aviation Fellowship credit card. So the amount of financial resources that have been automatically regenerated back into that ministry just because people have that card, it's quite large, Aaron, and so it's great to see again that cycle. You're just refeeding the kingdom, and so lots of opportunities there. We are very adamant about partnering with churches, hearing what their needs are, their pain points are, how we can help. And so we get it. We get ministry. We get the kingdom. And that's something you will never, ever get from a traditional big bet. You'll never get it. And you'll never get them being able to say we're biblically based either. So there's, again, just that alignment brings a lot of peace and a lot of comfort and a lot of relief, quite frankly, to a lot of people.
Yeah. What about a small podcast? Do you guys help a small podcast financially? I'm kidding. I'm literally kidding.
Yeah, you can become a member today by visiting myccu.com, right?
There we go. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I assume, so we have Venmo and Zelle and everybody else. You mentioned digital. That's kind of where, because honestly, I can't tell you the last time I darkened the door of a branch of the bank that we're a part of. I really, to your point about being web-based and digital, but money through Venmo, that's very popular now. PayPal, I'm sure there's others. I know there's one the government you keep hearing about, and then obviously Zelle. Are you guys kind of in that game too?
Yeah. So in our mobile experience, Zelle is the money transfer option that we have right now, and so we're of course always looking to other opportunities and ways to expand that. But Zelle is the primary digital transaction, if you will, that we utilize.
Good, and I like Zelle. I'm a fan. I use it, for our business as well. So that works out very, very well. So, what are your biggest fears? And this may be a difficult question. What are your biggest fears in terms of where things are headed that people should be very comfortable or maybe feel a little bit more comfortable? You've touched on so many ways that if we moved our finances there, how I can feel comfortable about where it is, things like that. What's your biggest fear?
Aaron, my number one fear or concern is that people have forgotten the Bible. They don't know their Bible anymore. That is the number one concern, that people don't know their Bible anymore. Social media, and I'll get more specific, sorry, with the financial side of things, but I think we have to start up here and then work our way into it.
I like it. Yeah.
Social media has taken a level of authority in people's life that is not appropriate. Mainstream media news has taken a level of authority in people's life that is not appropriate. People are now looking at other sources, which, by the way, are filtered, right? They're just telling us what they want to tell us. And they are using it as a primary source of their emotions and how they view the world. The Bible has lost its number one spot in people's life. And we have to get back to that first and foremost. So once that concern is relieved, then everything else starts to fall into place. But I would start there. Okay, that's the top concern. Is that I'm concerned that the Bible is no longer the authority in people's life. Okay, the number one authority.
Yep.
Now, from there, I would just say that the censoring is a very real thing happening. This is not,
Yep.
Not unique to our organization or the role that I hold or like that. It's, I've held several different positions that have proven that the Christian voice is being censored. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Right.
Whether it's on social media, whether it's digital ads, whatever it might be, there is a big tech, there is a cultural censoring taking place. And so as a result, Christians have to get a lot more creative. They have to actually get more discerning, quite frankly, and just understand what they're dealing with here, And so that is definitely a concern. The censoring of a Christian voice, of Christian values, of the ability to even speak to other Christians on digital platforms. I mean, it's a very real thing. And like I said, that would be for another podcast and another day, But that would be number two. And so if you put those two together and you've got, look, if the Bible is no longer the number one authority in people's life, possibly, and then you have this censoring of messaging, right? Well, then where's the truth coming from, right? And so that results in anxiety. It results in panic. It results in looking at a verse really quickly and taking it out of context and freaking out about it or something like that, right? And so from a Christian culture perspective, those are my concerns. From a financial perspective, I would say, and I say this on a personal level, somewhat of the same idea is that, sometimes the bank institutions that are out there may display similar behavior, right? In which the Christian values don't matter, in which there might be a targeting or an isolating. There's some reports out there of that. Now, obviously, I'm not a personal private investigator, but they're out there. Those stories are out there. And so the reality of what happened, definitely needs to be known. But those stories are out there, And so I think to some degree, we're seeing the need for Christians to be financially prudent and financially discerning just on their banking institution. But obviously we can add to that too, Aaron. We've got economic things going on. To your point earlier in the podcast, you've got all sorts of different charts and levels going up and down. And we're just entering a time, I believe, where the Christian needs to restore Scripture as their number one priority. As a result, discernment will come, wisdom will come, and to boldly live as a Christian. Yeah. I mean, I would just sum it up as that,
Well, and this is unscripted, so you and I haven't targeted that. I kind of hit you with that out of nowhere. It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question for you because you're representing, your organization. And also when it comes to finances, I'm sure there's things that you have to be careful to talk about or advise, I guess is maybe a word that I don't even know if I can use that. But anyway, I appreciate just how you've walked through all that because I think people understand, what you're saying. I know I did, and I really appreciate that. When it comes to, I'm just trying to think of a question that I'm sure so many people would ask. So let's just say my wife and I decided today, we hear this interview, we go to the website. How hard is it for us, again, we've been at the same bank since I was 14. Honestly, it's changed hands like 5 times, but I've been there since I was 14. I don't even know what it looks like to move banks. So just that process itself, is it difficult for people to do that?
Well, Aaron, you bring up a great point because the thought of it's overwhelming, is the number one reason why people don't switch banks, actually. We found that in our research as well. And so for those that are having hesitation, because obviously you have automatic, payments, you've got all kinds of stuff set up, right? So certainly if you're going to move over your checking account, okay, then that typically we would look at probably like a 30 to 60 day gradual plan. Okay. It's not something where you just do it overnight. And that's a misunderstanding. People, when they go, hey, I'm going to switch banks, don't do it overnight. Take your time, make for sure you have everything laid out. We actually have a switch kit available on our website that kind of walks you through the steps that you can take. And so for your listeners or for yourself, Aaron, you can go to myccu.com/switch and take a look at that. You can actually download a switch kit, and we've built this out. It just walks you through some step-by-step checkbox kind of things. If you're really looking at making that larger switch, like, yep, I'm going to move everything over. And we have a lot of members that have done that. Now, for those who aren't quite ready to take that step of I'm going to move everything over, a great place to start is with something like maybe like a CD account where you have like a high yield for like 5 months. Just get into the community as a member, know that that
Yeah.
investment is going into kingdom resources and have a great return on it. We
Yeah.
have a number of very competitive CDs being offered right now, and the rates are always updated again at myccu.com. But that's a great place to start. Is just start with something to get you in, right? And to kind of
Yeah.
get you exposed to the credit union, to get you exposed to what Christian banking will look and feel like for you, and
Yeah.
so open up a CD, right? Most CDs are, $500 minimum to open. And so it's kind of that small test for people just to get into the crowd a little bit while getting a good return at the same time. Another
Yeah.
great option is to open up that credit card,
Right.
and if you're already using it on a regular basis and you're using it prudently and with wisdom, why not get a credit card that invests back into the kingdom, and have that be
Yeah.
your way of joining the credit union? So for those who aren't wanting to make the complete leap over, there's still plenty of other options for you.
Yeah.
And many of the ways you can be part of this Christian community feeding back into the kingdom. But if you're not at a place where you want to completely jump over, totally understand that. But if you do want to do that, go get our switch kit at myccu.com/switch. Download that, and it'll walk you through a process that's about 30 to 60 days. Take your time on that, because there's a lot of things that are automated in that process that you already have set up, and we'll make for sure get carried over.
I really like that because I never thought of that. So I'm glad you walked through that because, I think when you think switching banks, you think you walk in and say, okay, give me all of this. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other point that you made that I didn't even think about is all the automatic deductions. A lot of people are on their automatic pay, ADP or whoever it is, puts their check directly in the bank. There's a lot of moving parts there that I'm sure I didn't even think about.
Yeah, you
So
talk
that's
with
a
your HR
great way to do
department and
that.
all that stuff to get that all set up. And yeah, it's a process. So we tell people,
Yeah.
take your time. Here's a checklist for you, and we'll be happy to help you. Well, actually, one of the things that most people are switching to, Aaron, if I may just very briefly here, I'm sorry, I may have interrupted you.
Sure. No.
We actually have a high yield checking account called our Harvest checking account. And so it offers a high yield on it up to a certain balance. And then with that, though, you bundle it with the credit card as well. So you kind of get all these benefits all at the same time. It's one of our hottest products right now that we're loving because it's a great incentive to move over, but it's also bundled with other things that again are feeding back into the kingdom as well. So something to look at as well. Harvest checking account.
That's awesome. And I just want to tell you really quick, first of all, thank you for all that you all do. And that's for the entire organization. Thank you. Because back to your point, and I saw this report, it was out earlier this week, I think, or late last week, about, you mentioned targeting. I mean, the report was said that there was purchases. Some of them were the Bible. I think,
Yep.
I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you saw that same report.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Aaron. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean, there was a report that said that they were actually targeting who bought the word Bible or all kinds of stuff. I can't even get into the specifics of it, but if people look, they'll find it as well. But that was extremely scary. Like that's crazy. But that's just kind of the world we're living in right now. And so thank you for your organization, for what you all are doing, because at the end of the day, I think we just want peace. You know what I mean? We work hard. I want my money to be okay. And we want to steward it well, those kind of things. So it's to have an organization that I can have some peace, but also know that it's going to the right places, that it's not going to fund something that honestly, if I probably am not aware of it. And if I was, I'd probably move right away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. And there's so much acquisitions happening at a high level, I'm sure, in this industry. Maybe I'm comfortable with my bank, but it's been acquired by one that I'm not comfortable with. Or there's just a lot of moving parts right now that is so unknown. And the last thing I'll say, and sorry for the rant, but it's a thank you again for what you all do, because I do believe now more than ever before, we have to come together as a country, but as Christians, because as you said, Revelation is pretty clear about where things are headed. And if we are splintered, if we're all doing our own thing, if there aren't organizations like yours that are saying, hey, let's get together, have some peace, let's fund back into the kingdom, let's do things the way that Scripture taught us to do. And you all are doing that. So hopefully that made sense. I guess I pay attention to a lot of those things, and I get very nervous about where we are, and yet we shouldn't fear. So I love what you said earlier about tension. That was a wonderful quote from your mentor.
Yeah.
Because it's true. It's true. We should have peace. But anyway, thank you for what you all are doing. It's really neat. And I'm glad that I got to share with the audience today.
Well, thank you, Aaron. That's very kind of you to say, and thank you for what you do, providing the outlet for these conversations, as well. And yeah, it's that's the beauty about Christian Community Credit Union, is that you are literally joining with thousands of other Christians across the U.S. that are deciding it's time to bank with my values.
Right.
And not only think about the return for yourself, but think about the return for those churches. Think about the return for that Christian charity. Think about the return for the humanitarian support that's going out there right now, across the world because of our members. It's both sides of the coin, and it's very hard to get that peace, to use your term. It's very hard to get that sense of assurement that, yeah, my funds are going to a biblically based institution. You can't get that, in other places, and so we're just here saying we exist. We're here, come join us, whatever scale that looks like, whether you just open up a credit card, whether you open up a CD for 5 months, we don't care. Come on in, or whether you switch everything over, we'd love to have you on board. And the work that's being done is tremendous. And look, I just want to allude to this as well, Aaron, is that in our market research, we did a massive research campaign. We're kind of getting that sense of like people are just feeling frustrated with their secular banks. We were hearing it from our members. I was hearing it from just general conversations. So we surveyed over 1,300 professed Christians across the United States, and what we found was that 30% had considered switching banks in the past 12 months, and the reason why was because they want alignment with their faith. Okay, alignment with their faith was in the top 3 reasons why. The other ones I think was interest rate or something like that, and customer service, right? But this one, alignment with one's Christian values, is very, very important. And even over 50% said that now it's more important than ever that they feel that their Christian values are in alignment with their banking institution. So these numbers are showing a rumbling, Aaron, right? Where there's this desire for alignment and this desire to come together, right? And knowing that as we face, because it's going to happen, as you face more and more persecution, as you face more and more of the trials of this world and the ways of this world, it's going to happen. So bond together, and Scripture promises, right, that there will be strength in that unity. And so again, myccu.com is the place to go. Check us out. We'd love to have you be part of this family.
I was just going to ask you for the links before we head out. So one last time, what's the link?
The link to go to is mycccu.com. And it's Christian Community.
It sounds
Credit
like there's
Union.
a ton of resources there. Yep.
Absolutely.
Sounds like there's a ton of resources there. Awesome. And then the last one was that switch. What was that one again?
Yeah, same domain, mycccu.com/switch. And you'll find some guidance there. And if you're looking to switch your bank.
There you go. Man, this has been very interesting, and I hope for you all very beneficial. I mean, the 3 people that listen, maybe one of them will move their stuff over. And one of them is my wife, so it may be us.
Yeah, I'm expecting your name to come across my radar, Aaron.
We'll talk about that sponsoring of a podcast, and then, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But no, I really appreciate what you all are doing. And it's funny because I think when we all get to heaven, not to sound like the old church hymn, but when we get there, there's going to be a lot of people that we impact. I hope that there's a lot of people we impacted that we had no idea about. Yeah. And when it comes to your banking, that could be very, very true in this. Every time I swipe my card to get gas, and that could be going to benefit. It is going to, as you've said, hopefully I'm saying it correctly. It's going to benefit a ministry somewhere where someone may get saved, and I may not even know that, but God does. And so I could be building the kingdom without even knowing it, just doing my day-to-day activities. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. In that exact example, we like to tell people, look, while you're fueling up your car, you could be fueling the gospel, and right. All at the same time. So it's not a revolutionary idea. It's just powerful. It's just people don't know that there is a biblical banking institution. And so for those listening to this, good news for you today. There is one. We would love to have you, Christian Community Credit Union.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you again for what you all are doing and your entire team. I just pray God's blessing, and I have to believe that you've witnessed. I'm sure we could probably take another podcast of stories that you've seen through the way that He is honoring what you all are doing, because I think you're doing it scripturally. You're doing it as we're called to do it, and that stewardship that we talked about earlier. So just thank you for what you're doing, and my prayers are for just continued success for everything that you all do.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, and thank you for the work that you do as well.
I appreciate that. Good luck. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Unscripted podcast. Make sure to review and share wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps out our mission to encourage everyone to live life unscripted. Until next time, keep living life unscripted.